As a land-grant institution, the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign has a responsibility to acknowledge the historical context in which it exists. In order to remind ourselves and our community, we begin with this statement. We are currently on the lands of the Peoria, Kaskaskia, Piankashaw, Wea, Miami, Mascoutin, Odawa, Sauk, Meskwaki, Kickapoo, Potawatomi, Ojibwe, and Chickasaw nations. It is necessary for us to acknowledge these native nations and for us to work with them as we move forward as an institution. Over the next 150 years, we will be a vibrant community inclusive of all our differences, with Native peoples at the core of our efforts.
So, actually, first of all, I did want to say something about the land grant or the land acknowledgement statement. And I wanted to say thank you to the university for putting that together. The reason is because, maybe over the last year or two, you've heard that statement read. And when it's read, you don't get the visuals that are in that video. We'll put a link to the video in the chat. And I actually wanted to say how much I appreciate the video and then give you a homework to do over the break, because it'll be a great time to pause and reflect and recognize the amazing gift that we have been given, the gift of not only the Beckman Institute, but the university that we're all a part of. Here's what you should do, at least my suggested homework. Get the video link, take your phone, go up to the 5th floor conference room. If you don't know where that is, it's 5239 in Beckman. And you'll get some of the exact same views that the drone that flies over and reads the land acknowledgement statement sees. And you'll see it, right before your eyes. And if you do that during the break, it'll be quiet. And really, you can take some time to reflect on what the meaning of that statement is and how we might move on from here. I think clearly our university has taken this point very seriously, and to right or wrong and to make recognition of the fact that we are really privileged to be on the land that we're on. At the very end of my talk, I'll give you one more homework assignment related to this. So stay tuned for another opportunity to engage with, because we all hear that land acknowledgement statement and we don't know what to do with it. And so I'm trying to give you some thoughts on what you might do to how to reflect and appreciate what it is that, the amazing gift and the responsibility that we have because we've been given that gift. And so use it. Let me start by sharing my screen here. So first of all, I want to start by saying thank you. It's been an incredible privilege to work with all of you this year in various capacities, and especially, Beckman administration. The Beckman admin is just amazing. Patty Jones, Kara Johnson, Meg Dickinson, Stacy Olson, the list goes on, and I'm surrounded by, just some amazingly talented people, and really appreciate that. You should appreciate that, I'm the person delivering at least the front end of this talk. You'll hear from several other people, but really it's a reflection of the tremendous work of all of you behind the scenes. And so I just wanted to say that up front, how much that this is not a one-person show. To make Beckman a better place, we really would like to hear your voice. And we appreciate the fact that the climate survey is going to take a little bit of your time. And not only does it take your time, but it does take a little bit of your it'll drain your mental energy a little bit as well. I can't stress enough. I mean, you might think like, wow, everything at Beckman is pretty great. And that's fine. That doesn't mean we do not want to hear your voice and the time invested isn't worth it, because there is absolutely, I have no doubt, room for improvement, even if you think everything at Beckman is wonderful. And while and so we have now moved the deadline one more time, the final time, to the end of the day tomorrow. And so if you haven't taken this climate survey yet, please do so. You have, we're giving you a very tight deadline. So happy reading day, and put your reading day to use if you haven't already done so by taking our climate survey. Meg will paste the link if she hasn't already done so. And I just want to say, here's how come we know it's difficult. So we have 174 completed surveys, but that's only 50% of the people who have logged on and attempted to take it. So there's been about 357 attempts, and only 50% have actually completed it. And so we really need that full set of data. We're appealing with you as much as we can to try to finish strong here at the very end. So no more needs to be said about that, but we really appreciate hearing your voice. This is an opportunity, along with the Jamboard, to hear your voice. I'm going to turn it over to one of our committee members who's on the director search, Kara Johnson. And Kara will tell you both about the timeline for the search for the next director, and she'll then tell you about who's on the committee, so you know who to speak with to give your opinions about the new director and the director search. And then finally, she'll talk a little bit about the financial picture at Beckman. So Kara, thanks for jumping in and helping out, and I'll turn it over to you.
Of course. So the search committee has been meeting. We started meeting in November, and we have an extremely dedicated search committee. So as you all know, this position is extremely important to all of us. And we have a pretty intense timeline, as you can see on the screen. So we are currently developing the interview process and questions. We are really hoping that the job is posted on the job board by the end of this week. We will also be developing a 2-page kind of flyer thing that we can circulate out for people. But what is really important is everyone has a say in this process. So we want to hear your voice. We want to hear what is most important to you. We want to hear all the things that, where you think Beckman should be going, what is the vision for the future, participating in this process, giving us feedback. And also if you have nominations. So all of you are extremely important to identify potential candidates. So please recruit. Please, if you have nominations, you can either send them to Sue Key, and I can put her email address in the chat, or you can contact me. All this information will be in the job posting as well. So, and like I said, we'll have a flyer that we can distribute also. So if people are interested in that, we can pass that along just to provide a little bit more information to potential candidates. On the next slide, you will see all of the search committee members. Like I said, everybody has been extremely dedicated and excited about the search and identifying the next person. Everyone has been clearing their calendar so that we can meet and really get this search off the ground and done and as quick as possible. So take note of who else is on there. Tracy Wazalek is also on the search committee, who is another Beckman staff member, and she will be talking later. So please contact one of us if you have any feedback questions, and then we absolutely need your input and your feedback. So we are very sad that Jeff is leaving, but we are very excited to have an amazing search committee and have all of you participate in some way. Beckman's financial picture. So this is what I will call it as our operating budget. So this is detailing the funds that we use for the daily operating expenditure. So this is staff, this is maintaining the building. And as you can see on the chart, we've had some significant decline since fiscal year 2016. And this has been through a variety of reasons, but the state has been financially strapped through the budget impasse, through COVID. But one of the things that we are very proud of and had a significant accomplishment that during these financially strapped times, we were able to put in a request to the provost office, and they have agreed to fund it in fiscal year 2025. And that's why you see the chart go up there. So they have funded 4 positions for us, which is so exciting and is really going to allow us to take off and do some things that we just haven't been able to do, in addition to really investing in some areas that are strategic investments that are important for our future. So I think this really shows right, the optimism that campus has for us and the support that they have about the vision that Beckman has for the future. One of the other things I wanted to note is you do see a little bit of increase in the chart in fiscal year 2020. And I just want to note that this is when we had a significant budget reduction in our allocated funding. So that's the funding that campus provides to us in terms of the allocated state and ICR. And this is due to earned F&A. And this tells you how important that earned F&A is to the Beckman Institute and how it can really help us make up those differences when we are really going through lean financial times. So one other note is you can see that our expenses are still projected to exceed our budget. We have been using a carry forward balance that we've had, and even in 2025, we get a budget increase. We are still projecting that to be. However, one of the things, hopefully for the next Beckman director, this will be a negotiation point, but also these are where these strategic investments that Beckman has been making are really important because they're going to hopefully allow for us to increase other funding sources that you don't see on the chart, grants, user fee revenue, and other areas. So the future is bright.
All right. Thank you, Kara. I completely agree. We will look forward to seeing how the director candidate negotiates and closes the gap. I wanted to give you just a snippet of the advisory committee visit that came in October. Each year we review or get advice from one of the research themes, and this year it was the integrative imaging theme. Thanks to Xipei Liang, who in the middle of this diagram you see I think Steve Bopart started this in 2008 and Xipei picked it up from there, really thinking about how it is that imaging is integrated in different ways, and be it multimodal kinds of imaging to look at different spatial and time resolutions or different features of interest, be it task-driven to think about basic science to clinical practice and how those to interplay off of one another through technological developments, or be it just the really blood and heart and soul, bread and butter is what I wanted to say of Beckman, and that is the interdisciplinary nature where we really bring together physical and life sciences together with engineering and really address I think nowhere else on campus and maybe challenge that and even say in the world to be able to bring all of these pieces together in such a profound way. On the outside of this diagram, you see what were 5 thematic team presentations that were given during the review. And these were narrative stories that showed how we are collaborative and how we're partnering with the Cancer Center or the College of Veterinary Medicine, or how we're working with Carl, both in terms of establishing infrastructure, but really being able to think more seriously about translation from basic science, technology development to clinical practice. And so we had 5 team presentations that are described around here. And then we received from a really blue ribbon panel committee a report on what they had seen and then what their suggestions were to how do we get better. And they talked about these 6 areas here. Quality. Our quality, I have to say, from in that report was really world-class. And they recognized both up and coming areas that are relatively new, but they saw a vision of where they were going. And then we have, sort of tried and true, very committed to things like spectroscopic imaging, for example, and label-free imaging that were reviewed as recognized already as world-class. Where I think there's room for improvement is in how we are organized, or at least how we present ourselves in a way. I think our organization at Beckman has always been complicated, but we should embrace that to some degree because that's how we are dynamic and evolving, and we're not static. And part of that is reflected in really our organization. But we do have some challenges in order to improve our organization. Integrative imaging was basically the statement in the report is more relevant today than it was when it was initially conceived. So thanks to Steve Beaupart for that idea that he had, and along with JPay to develop it to where it is today. Size means the number of faculty, and they gave us some advice, especially related to hiring around MRI, because we have the infrastructure in place now. And so that seems to be an important point to complete the picture. There is not only to get the tools in place, but to get the additional people, because we now have the resources to be able to use them. And fortunately, campus has been behind that. And I think already there's a senior candidate who is in negotiation at this point. And so we're very optimistic that the first person of maybe what will be several will be hired. In terms of the scope and direction, they were really excited about how we spanned from the molecular scale all the way up to really cognitive neuroscience, because in those team presentations, what we did this year was a little different. We used to be really just theme-centered, integrative imaging, and the teams were really only made, and presenters were only those in the teams. But the strength at Beckman is we have no barriers. And so we brought in faculty who are part of intelligent systems theme. And that really, I think, set the tone for just how we are able to span these amazing scales from molecular all the way up to the full macroscopic and behavioral understanding. And finally, I think it was really an optimistic report in terms of we have the pieces in place for being really just continuing to be world-class and developing even new areas. For example, musculoskeletal is kind of a emerging area, and the extracellular vesicle group that Marnie Beaupart leads was really, again, called out as a emerging area that we have the potential to have high impact in. So that report was all very good. Speaking of Mariana, so she's going to replace JPay as the co-chair of the integrative imaging theme. And we will soon be announcing the co-chair who will replace Liz Stein-Morrow for intelligent systems. But that should happen, I would say, before the end of the semester, most likely. So the theme leadership is strong. And in fact, one of the things that I'm really the most proud of is, why we are such a tight-knit organization and is because I think the people, in the room, but also the people on this page here. This is how we're kind of organized. It's not a traditional organizational chart, but definitely, what you see around the Pentagon, people and faces you recognize. But inside is the very strong Beckman Institute Executive Committee. We meet every other week. If you need a person to voice something you'd like to be voiced among the leadership here at Beckman, look at the names that are listed around here. We've expanded this over the last year, and I think it's set in place with now a very tight-knit group that has this dynamic every other week to continue to go on and flourish and be very strong. So Mariana steps in as the co-chair of integrative imaging, along with Vivash Dabruki, who has done an excellent job after Steve Beaupart stepped down. And so we are extremely grateful for all of their effort, and then many leaders across all parts of Beckman who are picking us up and really putting us into high places. And with that, I'm going to ask Patty Jones to give us some core facilities update and introduce Brad Sutton and Tracy Woslek, who will be telling you a little bit about some of the updates around MRI. So Patty.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. So next slide, please. So yes, as many of you know, Travis Ross left for a new job. So he departed from the Viz Lab in November. And I've been working with the Viz Lab Advisory Committee to update our strategy. And so I'm continuing to do that. And in a few months, we expect to have kind of a re-engineered vision for the Viz Lab. And therefore, that will lead us to seek a new manager of that in the future. So if you're interested in the Viz Lab and I have not already talked with you, please let me know. And I'm happy to discuss more about what the Viz Lab is and what it could be and what new directions it might go into. Next slide.
Whoops.
Oops. Okay. So that's all I had to say about that. I guess I should say also that, again, thanks to Kate Wallace for being our new microscopy suite manager. And many of you already know Kate. And so, again, we're looking forward to having her continue to step up and formulate new strategies for microscopy. Here with me in my office is Tracy Wazalek, and she will have a few slides to go over some of the new acquisitions and activities at the Biomedical Imaging Center. And I think Brad Sutton will also cover a slide. So take it away, Tracy.
Hi there. Thanks so much for giving us the opportunity to talk about what has been a surreal year and an exciting year, but I don't think exciting even begins to cover what's happened in the last year at BIC, including the sighting. It's actually been miraculous, the fact that we were able to sight 2 high field magnets in the last year. And I want to do the quick shout out to Rob Fritz and Earl Heffley. These magnets would not have come to fruition. They would not be up and running and not be doing exciting things without them and the entire FNS team. It took hundreds of folks to bring this magnet and the other magnet up to field and into action. So I can't, again, as Jeff mentioned earlier, I cannot thank this team enough for helping us work together to do the kind of science we're all excited about. So again, the first baby I want to describe that's been added to the family is our new preclinical scanner, the Brooker 9.4T. It's got a number of specs, and at the end, I'm going to just do a very broad overview of what some of the research that's enabled on the 2 new scanners, and I'll let Brad give you some of the really cool technical specifics at the end and some of the applications that I think will be really exciting for our users to be able to take advantage of. But the Brooker is the first baby that I want to talk about, and if I could have the next slide. For me, the fun is to see what this baby can do. And so this machine came to campus as a result of more than 20 different departments. It really has been not only a Beckman broadly engaged effort, but an effort across campus, lots of different departments. And you can see some of the folks here that are doing fabulous projects from those departments. So everything from fMRI of birds to spice work that's being done by a variety of different groups, diffusion of an octopus arm. There's been work on lithium batteries and other kinds of materials. Who knew that we could be working and excited about looking at schizophrenia and aging? Certainly we knew aging in mice, but the schizophrenia work is an exciting new application or interest for us. And something that's been going on at BIC at 3T, but now we think we have an interesting advantage or an interesting opportunity is to be able to be looking at piglet brain development at higher fields. We learned recently that more piglet scans have been done on this campus than anywhere else in the world, which is pretty impressive. And to be able to add other field strengths to really figure out what those piggies are thinking about is an incredibly exciting opportunity, I think, for us. Next slide. And this is just sort of a blow up. I wanted to provide you with a little bit, even a small bit of understanding about the resolution that this higher field buys for us. So on the left, you see a piglet brain, and you see an image that was collected at 3T. And indeed, this campus was the place with Ryan Dilger and his colleagues being able to develop a piglet brain atlas. And so that was done with our scanner at 3T. And now being able to take it up to 9.4, you can see the resolution in the back part of the brain and the cerebellum. It's just incredible. The beauty of those folia and the different components is just amazing. These higher fields bring out things that we just heretofore had not been able to really look at and study and examine. There's some other components on there. You'll see hind limb of a mouse there, and some other muscle tissue scans. So again, the big thing about moving up with these field strengths is being able to get incredibly good resolution. But you can only get that when you have a team that is able to help you use that high resolution or able to acquire that high resolution. It doesn't just happen by plugging in the machine and getting an image. It requires an enormous amount of work to make sure you've set up the sequences properly, and then even more work to do the processing afterwards. So next slide. The other big exciting baby that we added to the family was the new 7 Tesla scanner. That baby weighed in at 50,000 pounds, and another Herculean effort to put it into place. And it is the foundation of the new Carl, Illinois Advanced Imaging Center, or KAYAC, as we call it, because we have to have an acronym and we have to have fun little phrases to describe everything we do. And it really has been an amazing coming together. In the last year, the amount of work that has been done to stand up both this imaging center and get the 7T scanner up and running has been phenomenal. So I want to really shout out again to our Carl partners, in particular, Bruce Damon, who is my partner in crime within the KAYAC. So as you see on here, Bic does all the things it's been doing and then some more. And that Carl is standing up a Carl Clinical Imaging Research Program. And then we meet in the middle around the 7T and work together where the machine, the 7T is co-owned, was co-purchased, is co-managed. It's absolutely a collaboration. There are studies that individuals will direct from just the university side or just from the Carl side, but we do have some sweet spots in the middle where we think collaborations where we will be better together. So next slide. Just want to say about a couple of projects, and I'm going to let Brad tell you a little bit about why some of these projects are exciting. So internally, there's a large number of projects already going on. What I really want to point out is that we have a Champaign-Urbana population study, thanks to our own Patty Jones, who's helping to manage that project. And the exciting part of that, I'll tell y'all, exciting and or incredibly frightening. We just launched this project a couple of 3 weeks ago. It's come together of a large number of folks to really lay out a foundational study for the future so that we can develop a data set and use it foundationally for other studies. But we, as of yesterday, we had 200 people that were interested or had expressed interest in learning more about the study. As of this morning, that number had grown beyond 600 people. So that's an incredibly exciting thing. And again, if I weren't so frightened about it, I think I would be even a little calmer. But we have a fabulous team, so we're not worried. But I think it's really going to be an especially exciting study. One of the other components of it, as I said, incredibly community-based, community-focused, and looking to have as diverse a population in that study as at all possible. And then lastly, there's the thing that I think is also miraculous is the fact that on the 7T, despite the fact that it's only been up a short time and it's such novel technology, we have 3 externally funded studies. One of them is one that, thanks to Neil Cohen, collaboration with Melissa Duff at Vanderbilt, has brought over on TBI. Fan Lam has a new study in high-res spectroscopy, and Wael Mustafa, one of the neurosurgeons, in collaboration with a number of folks on the university side, including Brad and Aaron Anderson and myself, are looking at some inner cerebral hemorrhage work. So I think there's a lot of things to be excited about. I just have one more slide, but I wanted Brad to be able to show you some of the cool, incredibly important processing pipelines and the kinds of work that the engineering support crowd is providing for these studies. So next slide. And Brad, if you can jump in.
Yeah. So we have this wonderful new machine, and we have a ton of resolution and higher sensitivity for looking at things like functional behavior in the brain and even connectivity. How do different parts of the brain talk to other parts of the brain? And it turns out the sensitivity going from our 3 Tesla scanners in Beckman to the 7 Tesla scanner now it goes up by a factor of 4, not by a factor of 2. And so we're really excited to be able to use this, but with this large data comes a lot of processing and working together with the Beckman ITS. We've been able to put together a pipeline server that really allows us to keep up with the data flow and do this more as a high throughput. And so I'm showing you just an example here of what automatically gets processed on the scanner. We take images of the brain and the structural images of the brain, and we can segment them out. We can parcellate the brain into the different pieces, and then we can look to see how are different parts of the brain wired together through connectivity analysis using diffusion data, and then how are they talking to each other through connectivity analysis using the functional data. And all this happens automatically. It takes a lot of runtime. You can see here 26 hours for resting state and 9 hours for the wiring, the connectivity, but we get a lot of information out, and we're going to be able to leverage that right away in order to push towards very quick results with this.
All right.
Oh, go ahead.
Is there anything else?
Okay. So yeah, one other component I just wanted to say is I really want to encourage folks to reach out to Brad, to me, to Aaron, to anybody. If you have any interest in coming to see these new babies, we'll ask you to mask up. But other than that, we'll get you running. And so seeing these babies or seeing the children that have already grown up a bit, we'd be thrilled to have you there. And if you don't find time to come, don't worry. We'll start sending you pictures of the children and bring them to your house. So please let us know if there's anything we can do to help you stand up projects on any of these new pieces of equipment. Thanks.
Thanks, Patty, Tracy, Brad. Very helpful, very useful information. So I wanted to give you an update on our ongoing, very active facilities project. And I don't know if I can do this very well or not, but I want to try to paint a picture of what all has been imagined for the atrium and other parts of Beckman. I think, when you come into the building, you already notice that it's quite different than it was 5 years ago between the video wall, the MRI exhibit, and that sort of thing. And that adds nicely to, Arnold Beckman memorabilia, which is quite historic and, captures the history of transforming medicine from palpitation to a digital electronic analytical chemistry lab. And so what you're seeing is, this amazing destination place of Beckman Atrium. And yet it's still got parts that are frozen in 1989. And so I'm sure you've all heard that, we have this plan for the cafe, and a fundraising effort is underway right now. And you've probably seen the video from Ted Brown, who is just as eager as I'd say I am to see this project through. We are reimagining then the atrium to be this incredible space, destination place that has public appeal because of these different displays and so forth. And I think we all know that really being collaborative means spending time together, and we all have to partake in meals or grab a cup of coffee. And so, it's really important, I think, for the future of Beckman to continue to have a facility that will basically keep up with the times. And so you can see a much more open area is imagined. This is a very early artistic drawing. Trays will be collected on the opposite side, giving us more space to do more things on the preparation side. The other thing I'll draw your attention to is don't ever forget that, the garden area is on the west side of the building, right outside the door of the cafe. And right now, there's only one way to get into this door, and that is if you have just left the door, because the fenced-in area prevents us from basically allowing anyone to enter the building from the west entrance, which would be the natural place if you really intended to come to the cafe. And so along with this modification of the atrium to make it a place of destination, there is also an intent to redo that garden area. I hope you've all been able to enjoy the garden area. It's been nice, especially during COVID times, to get out there and spend some time. I want to say, we all can benefit from this, and while you may not think too much of a small donation, I have to say small donations are important, because if for no other reason, our small donations will show the outside world just how strong of a percentage of Beckman people are buying into this idea that we want our space to be really modernized and up to date. One last element I did forget, and I'll mention it with the Molecule Maker Lab, is that there will be a Molecule Maker Lab studio on the first floor. And so really the first floor is very well set up to have the community partake in some of the things that are going on at Beckman. So I really look forward to watching over the next couple of years how this transforms. The last thing I'll say about the cafe, the plans are in place for this project. It will probably begin sometime in the summer of 22. That's when the designing will take place, and then it will probably be a longer than a year project. So you'll have to part with the cafe for a little bit of time, but we will come back better than we were before. So we're looking forward to that. I mentioned the Molecule Maker Lab. The actual labs themselves will be on the second floor on the east side of the building. The freezer room on the second floor is really important part of, especially as we move into tissue storage and being able to long-term reliably have freezer capacity, the ability to back that up with electrical outage should it happen. The ESCO project is nearly wrapped up. Most of the disruptions in the laboratories are complete, and there's just a little bit of work to be done in the basement. and our tissue engineering and phenotyping lab in the basement, a shared facility that's really central to the cancer center, is coming along quite nicely. You'll all get a chance in maybe sometime in April, unless the supply chain hits us harder than we anticipate, to be able to go down there and see this amazingly transformed Beckman Institute basement due to the tissue engineering and phenotyping lab. I want to pause here, and actually, if you wouldn't mind getting something to jot down a few key dates, you'll see this in email, I'm sure. But we, along with these projects, the ESCO project and the Cancer Center TEP facility, there's going to be some important outages that need to take place, and they're going to happen upcoming pretty soon. And so I'm going to turn it over to Rob, if you wouldn't mind. Tell us a little bit about these key outages and let people take notes about when they're going to be unable to be in the building, or and especially to be able to do work in their labs, and what they might have to do to prepare for that.
Good afternoon, everybody. The first date has to do with the Cancer Center project. They are coming along well. The drywall is being up, and they're talking about painting it starting to paint it in the next few weeks, and ceilings going in. So it's really moving along well. But with that, they are needing to connect the ductwork that they brought down months ago, and they sealed it. Now they've got to open that up and start running it further into the lab to the hoods and elsewhere. And that's going to require an 8-hour outage, 8 to 10 hour outage actually. And that is planned for Saturday, December 18th. So that'll be an all-day outage. And the second outage is going to happen during our break, which is December 29th. And that has to do with the ESCO project. So that's going to have the general lab exhaust. And all of these affect mostly the wet lab areas. But since we're shutting down the exhaust to the building, there's always a chance for fumes to escape and get elsewhere in the building. So we're asking that we have just basically close down the building. And we've done this a couple times in the past few months for these projects. And hopefully we're getting down toward the end of that. But these will be 2 dates, December 18th for the total fume hood outage, and December 29th, which is a Wednesday during our break, that we'll be shutting down the general lab exhaust. And again, we'll be putting notes on the doors and the rooms, but we're asking that since we don't know where the fumes might go, we're asking that no one be working in the labs except for the contractors, and actually in the building those days. And also there's there'll be time after that, so the systems can regenerate and get all what's in the labs out of there. And the biggest thing too, and we'll make note of that too in the email that I send out to everybody, is that we make sure when we have these outages that your lab is secure, that you close all containers that might have any let off gas in the room, and that you close all the sashes so there's minimum gas that might be brought into the rooms from other labs if the fans are down, or not be sucked out up, into the rest of the building. So the main dates, like Jeff said, that we're looking at is December 18th, an all-day outage, that's a Saturday, and December 29th, which is a Wednesday, right in the middle of our break. So we just appreciate your cooperation, and any questions, please feel free to contact me anytime. Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Rob. So yeah, like Rob said, I mean, just to reiterate, if there's a major concern that this is problematic, we're going to work with you, but we are hopeful that there's a lot of obviously moving pieces, and Rob's put them all together. So your utmost cooperation would be greatly appreciated, but we also want to hear from you if there's some concerns that need to be addressed with those 2 outages that are coming up shortly. I mentioned when I showed you the cafe, which is located, so this is the west side of the building. There's that west door. we are reimagining what this northwest corner is going to look like. And with the fences down and the real possibility of thinking about an entryway into the building, Earl has imagined how we might put some parking here. You can't see it on this diagram, but up here, the very farthest part of the northwest plat for the Beckman ground is where the University of Illinois founding charter plaque that describes the origins of 1867 of the University of Illinois. And that gets me to my second homework for you. If you want to get outside instead of heading to the 5th floor and reflect on our land acknowledgement statement, I'd encourage you to take a walk around the building. If you take it at noon or sometime thereafter, in the noon hour, you might run into Jipe Liang, because I often take a walk around the building at noon and run into Jipe. But I would encourage you to pause on the corner of University and Wright. And if you've never read that statement, now imagine it with the land acknowledgement statement, just this amazing gift that has happened and transformed our university over the past 153 years, I guess it's been now. So really thinking creatively about that garden end. I mean, I'm actually little known to most people, working with a group in ACES to tell us what's even possible in terms of growing some of our own leafy greens in a enclosed growing area on that garden area. Of course, those are all just in the very early thought, like, is it even possible stage at this point? But really some really very cool opportunities. I mean, how cool would it be to basically harvest our greens in an urban agriculture vertical garden kind of setting and then serve them to our patrons? And finally, yes, the new atrium furniture is the last piece of how that atrium is going to be transformed and modernized. The furniture should have been here already. You can see some of the pieces that Dina McDonough and Amanda Harris have picked out. It's not here yet because of supply chain issues, but we're pretty excited about sort of really giving this modernized destination place, the Beckman Institute. I gotta give Dina all the credit in the world. It was her who really described to me transforming that atrium space to be a place that everyone wants to go to. And how cool is that to really put all of these pieces together, and for us to look back past COVID, past the last couple of years where it's been so difficult to gather and get together, to bring us all together in this amazing space that's going to be our own backyard. And how grateful I am to all of you and the work that's gone on to make this possible. And of course, to campus. None of this would be possible. The Café, for example, is in part, it's a $4 million project estimated, and it's being funded, half of which by campus, and the other half is what we're going to be raising from donations. And so, all of this is really possible because of you and the fact that you care about being at a place like the Beckman Institute, where we are just going to be set. We are set to do amazing work over the next many years to come. So that's all I have. Actually, late addition, I did forget we usually end the town hall meeting with a reception. The last couple of years, obviously, we haven't been able to do that. But just before COVID, we decided, well, there are really too many gatherings at this time of the year. Wouldn't it be great to have a gathering to start the semester? And so we're planning on doing that this year. And you can write the date down, January 21st. We will be here in the atrium and having an enjoyable time with all of you from 3 to 5 p.m. on that Friday, just as the semester is ready to kick off. Oh, the last item is until the 17th of December, we will be taking orders for Beckman merch. So we all want to show our Beckman pride. This embroidered label will be on various items. You can go on the web page that was distributed through the Beckman listserv and pick out your Beckman merch and wear it proudly, as we are happy to be a part of this great family together. So I think that's it now. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions if you want to put them in the chat, or we can unmute. You can unmute yourself and ask questions. It's really your time to get any concerns or suggestions, thoughts that you have out in, so we can address them. So I will stop sharing my slides and see if there are any questions. I haven't been following the chat, so. We should definitely capture the chat because there's a lot of useful links in there, and we can distribute that around along with the rest of the slides. Maybe everybody, if you don't mind, could turn on the camera and we can get a couple of snapshots. It's nice for historic reasons to at least say, hey, look at all the people that were at the town hall. So if you have a camera available, I'll take a couple of screenshots. Nice to see everybody's faces. And I have like 3 pages to go here, so hold on, don't go anywhere yet. And one more. All right. I think I got them all. Thank you so much. One last call for questions and a reminder that the Jamboard is probably still live. So there's another place to voice your opinions. Thanks so much, everybody. Happy holidays. And I appreciate your time here today.